will say that I want to give these three guys credit. I never could have run for city council without having spent any number of years in leadership positions in more than a dozen different volunteer organizations. I wouldn't have thought I knew the community well enough to now stand here. And I never would have run for Congress if I hadn't spent at least a decade at the local level, including 5 years as mayor. So I give them credit for running experience. That we all do that. I know this is there's going to be a lot of personal attacks. That always happens. There's little that people don't know about me. Everything that I've said or done over the last 35 years has been pretty well scrutinized. They filed a financial report again today. Everything's out in the open. I don't own anything. I owe about $12,000 on my visa, and that's it. So while I don't owe or really, well, I don't own or really owe anything, what I do have is a whole lot of pride in what we've been able to accomplish in Northern Virginia. It's the strongest economy in the country, and I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the community that I've represented, and I intend to continue to do so. So go ahead with questions.
We'll attribute the rest of the time here to your next question. And Congressman, this is something that's popular for conversation on the Hill right now, and we're waiting to see whether or not it's going to come to fruition. We're talking about Kerry Lieberman American Power Act, the energy bill. It's certainly contentious regarding the finances to cover it and the effectiveness of it, whether or not it's something that we should be tackling right now. What are your thoughts, and do you support the Power Act as it stands?
I voted for the energy bill, but I have a lot of reservations. The fact is that the energy bill that the House passed is a pro-coal bill. Coal, although, is a domestic resource. Coal is a dirty fuel, and I don't think we should be as dependent upon it, although it has the advantage over all the oil that we are importing, because we've created a whole lot of geopolitical problems with our dependence upon foreign oil. I think we need to wean ourselves off fossil fuels into more sustainable, cleaner forms of energy. I think that the bill we passed, although it's better than what we have, is still deficient. It's also, though, better than the Senate bill. I think what we ought to have is, I think what we ought to have is a carbon tax. A carbon tax that is much simpler to administer. We won't create another expansive derivatives market. And I think that, in fact, the head of ExxonMobil indicated to us, said publicly, actually, at the Economic Club in Washington, that he preferred. He thinks it's the simplest to administer and the fairest as well. That's what we ought to do. But in the absence of that, I intend to ensure that there be sufficient money in the Interior Appropriations Bill to enable the Environmental Protection Agency to implement the Clean Air Act. They have the authority to do it, and in the process, we're going to try to shut down power plants like the Moran plant in California. The single worst stationary source of pollution, air pollution, in the Washington area. We need to move past these outdated sources of power to train clean, modern energy, and it will also enable us to bring a whole lot of innovation and entrepreneurship into our economy, which we desperately need. Unfortunately, we lost a bill today that would have created a DARPA for the Energy Department, would have put a few $1 billion into doing the same thing that DARPA does for the Defense Department. With that kind of basic research, we can show America at its best, coming up with innovative ways to enable this planet to clean up its act, to find sustainable forms of energy, and to lead the rest of the world. Unfortunately, it was defeated because there was only one Republican who voted for it. And one physicist that we have. I think it was Vernilis that voted for it. But that's the problem. We've got to invest in research and innovation. That's our strength. And we ought to put aside this closed-minded thinking that the government can't play a role in stimulating this economy.
Congressman, this is something that, despite the, I believe I did 318 reports last year on healthcare, people across this district are still very confused. And many of them want to know what the new healthcare law will mean for small businesses. There's still a lot of gray area out there. Can you describe exactly what it will do to affect some of these local businesses here? And did you truly support the bill to its core?
Yes, I did support the bill because the cost of health care is strangling us, nationally and individually, and particularly small businesses. And in fact, small businesses have very little leverage in dealing with insurance companies. Because they don't have a pool with which to compete. The federal government has that advantage of a large pool. Large corporations do. The small businesses don't. I was one of the original sponsors of a bill that would have enabled, it was called HSA, but it would have allowed trade associations to represent their membership. But that was inadequate. What we have now is something that's going to help small businesses a great deal. First of all, if you have a business of 10 or fewer employees whose average income is less than $25,000, the government is going to provide a tax credit of 35% of your insurance premiums. That's going to save a great deal of money for small startup businesses particularly. Up to 25 employees, it will be graded, but there will be some subsidy. Now, if you have under 50 employees, you have no mandate. You don't have to get insurance. It's entirely up to you. By 2014, you will be able to go into a national exchange. Many states will have state exchanges. Virginia has opted not to do that. But you'll be able to go into a national exchange, similar to what we have with federal employees. It'll be a much larger pool. You'll be able to get competitive rates. We expect those your premiums will be reduced by 20 to 25% as a result. And if you have employees with pre-existing conditions, you're not going to pay a penalty that oftentimes creates a situation where their employer cannot afford to cover any of their employees. So it's going to be a big boost for small businesses.
Congressman, as a result of what's called incumbent privilege, there are no rebuttals. So that means you have 1 minute now to make any sort of closing remarks you'd like.
Well, thank you. I'm blessed to represent Northern Virginia, and I think we are blessed to live and work in Northern Virginia. As I say, this is the strongest economy in the country today. But one of the reasons is the presence of the federal government. When we see the government acquire office buildings, when we are able to attract businesses that work with the government, such as Northrop Grumman, will be coming to the 8th District, such as SAIC, who has come to the 8th District, such as any number of other corporations. That's good for all of us. Many of them have 6-figure incomes. They'll be buying houses. They'll be renting apartments. They'll be going to restaurants. They'll be acquiring your products and services. That's what we want. My job is to enable businesses to prosper in Northern Virginia, to try to create as high a quality of life as possible, but also to have an inclusive society. I believe in an inclusive society. I'm proud of our diversity. I'm proud of the economic strength that defines us, and I'm proud of the social stability. We have a terrific opportunity to lead the rest of the country, and I appreciate your interest in coming to this debate, and look forward